Hello Stampers! My name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. I'm so glad you could join me today. I have a pretty card for you using some of our newer things and some things that we maybe have in our stash. And I was looking to make a card to send to a male friend. And so I didn't want it to be flowery and feminine. And I came up with a design that I'm pretty pleased with. So let's just get started. Here is my card. I used some of our new dies, and I used some of our older dies, and I used stamps that have been in our stash for a while. And there's the inside, and I'm going to change up a few things. Everything with the Evening Evergreen on this is, the contrast is great because the green is dark and the crumb cake in the background is light, so there's a nice contrast, but my bird is too pale. So I've decided I'm changing that up a little bit and I'm going to make him a little darker. So what did I use to make this? I used lots of material. I went a little nuts. I love this Scalloped Contours dies, and the stamp set is called Color and Contour. And it's got this beautiful stitched scallop. It's got a flower, a couple of flowers, and then it's got all of these frames, all with a scallop around them. Well, I loved this one, and when I cut it out, it cuts out like this, and then I used my stitch rectangle dies. I used the third largest of the stitched rectangle dies, so the first, second, and then the third largest, and it cuts out perfectly this little frame. And so I went ahead and cut that out, and it leaves you this beautiful stitched piece which we can use for another project. Let me get my washi tape off of there. And so now I have a perfect scalloped frame with a stitched interior. I just loved the way that looked. Now I cut a second one in the Evening Evergreen, and it is like this, and you can see I've cut an edge off, and that's what I did here on the inside, just to add a little bit of interest and bring this inside from the outside inside. And you can see we can use this same piece to cut another one for this card, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to change up a few things. So you need 2 of these things cut from the Evening Evergreen, and we'll just set those aside for the moment. I'll move my die out of the way. So the other dies that I used, and I used some of our shimmer vellum here in the Evening Evergreen, and I did some in the pale papaya, and I used my Forever Flourishing foliage dies here. I used this one for this and this one for this. I like the shape of those leaves, and so I'm putting just a little bit of that as an accent to create some more contrast in those leaves. And so I used those 2 dies from that die set, and then one more from the Stitched So Sweetly. I did use this die for the Stitch So Sweetly, and I cut out more leaves than I needed, but that's the way I like to do it, just in case I change my mind. All right, and then the bird comes from Free as a Bird. There's my little bird. And then Your Friendship Means the World to Me is where this came from, and I'm going to change that up and do that in the evening evergreen. And I'm going to do my bird a little bit darker and move him over a little bit. The other stamp set that I used, yes, I know, more stamp sets. I used the Very Versailles, and hopefully Free as a Bird and Very Versailles are some things, and the layering stitched so sweetly and the layering stitched rectangles are all things you may have in your stash, and the contours is really the only thing that is new, and then the Evening Evergreen, and then the Shimmer Vellum. But I used the leaves from here, and in this case I used a splatter stamp, and right now I can't remember where it came from. It's been put away, whatever it was, just to add a little bit of texture to the background, although I suppose we could do this too. But I like the splatter in this case. So let's talk about what else it takes then to do this. So you need a half a sheet of the Evening Evergreen to make the frame and the inside cut piece. Then we need a very vanilla base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. We need a piece of very vanilla scrap to do our sentiment, and we need 2 pieces of crumb cake, one for the inside and one for the outside. So let's get on with doing our stamping first. So the first thing I'm going to do is I did use some Post-it notes. When I stamped this one, I stamped right to the edge of the crumb cake, and I didn't like the way that looked coming through those scallops. So I'm just going to add a little bit of Post-it note right up here, just in that corner, to keep from stamping right along that edge where I can see it. It doesn't need to be stamped very far in, but a little bit did help. So let me grab some scratch paper here, and I've got my big leaf stamp from Very Versailles, and I stamped that in the Evening Evergreen, and I did do it at full strength. I was surprised at how against the crumb cake, it's not too dark. So I'm going to put this first one right down here in the center, paying particular attention to get that as stamped as I can against those Post-it notes. And then I'm going to re-ink the tip and put a few leaves on that side, and then the same thing here. Just a few leaves on that side. And darn it, I got some on there anyway. Oh well, just a dab. Son of a gun. And I may be able to get that lifted off of there. We'll see. I'll use my sand eraser and see if I can make that go away. All right, so there is my leaf stamping for this, and then my bird. And I know that this frame is going to go in here like this, and I did want to move my bird. My sentiment felt a little bit crowded here, so I thought I would move my bird a little further over this way. So, and he was so pale, I did him in crumb cake, so I thought that this time I would stamp him in soft suede. It's just a little bit darker brown, and I think that'll do it. So I know that my frame is going to be here. That's about where I want to do my stamping. to move him over just a little. So right about there. And you can see how much more distinctive he's going to be in that spot. Very good. All right. So now we're all ready to go with that. And that is, I think, all of the stamping I need to do on the front. Then I need to do my sentiment. And my sentiment I want to do in Evening Evergreen. So I'll bring out my Evening Evergreen and ink that up and set that down right here in the center of my piece of scrap. Your friendship means the world to me. Well, I've already stamped and die cut mine a little earlier, but it just fits in this die cut. You can see here that it is just barely fitting inside there. And the way I placed it on here to work is I used the world and me here on the bottom to have these little pieces come right up to the edge of those words. And when I did that, the rest of the piece, when I die cut it, because the dies, the cutting blade on these dies is in the center of this piece. So you have a little bit of wiggle room that you're going to have when you're done. And this is what it came out looking like. So the only other thing I did to this, and you can see it on this one, is that I used a dauber and some Evening Evergreen ink. Maybe I need to get a little bit more on there. And I just put some around the edges here to define the label. Not too much. And then I did use the dauber to kind of sweep across the front without re-inking, because I don't want a lot on there, but just to add, to take that so that it's not quite so bright. Now then, I have that splatter I told you about, and I'll get that up on the screen for you. And the splatter's kind of dark, and that ink is dark, so I've stamped off twice, and I'm just going to gently go around here and add a little bit of texture. And you can see what that does to my tag. I think that adds a little bit. I've got ink all over the place. Okay, so now I can put that away for the moment. And that is all the stamping we need for the outside. Now, for the inside, I'm going to put a little bit of this leaf. I didn't like the way the inside of the other one came out, so I'm just going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to ink up this, these leaves, and I'm going to set them right up here in this corner. There we go, just like that. I think that will add a little bit. And then I've got my bird, and my bird on the inside of this one is just peeking in the corner here. So I'm going to do him in the soft suede again so that he matches the bird on the front. And I didn't even put much of his feet on here, just kind of get him to come into that corner. So there we go. There's the bird coming in there. And then we'll add some of the other pieces to this and get that done when we're ready to finish off the inside. So that is all of the stamping. And let's see. So we are ready to maybe color the bird. Now, This bird, in fact, I thought I had ruined this when I colored this bird because I was trying to get lighter colors. There's a bird that's similar to this that is right outside my kitchen window. They've made a nest in an old tree trunk. And so I see this little bird all the time out my kitchen window. And so what I've done is I took my blends. Now this one is the bronze marker. And I just wanted to ground him a little bit so he's not kind of floating on air. So I did that here. And on this one, I used cinnamon cider, and I thought it was too orange. So on this one, I used the bronze. Then I'm going to take my light pale papaya. Now you're going to be shocked at this, but when I color him in, it looks absolutely brown. And that's why I say when I colored him from before, I thought, this is ruined. This isn't at all what I was looking for. And I got called away for a bit. And when I came back down, this is what I got. I was very surprised to find out that the color does come through. It just takes a while, and it must dry thoroughly in order to be able to see that. Because the other color that I used, surprisingly, was light pool party, and that was to get the blue, and I wanted to get the blue on his wings, a little on his tail, a little down here on his stomach, and decided to add a little bit to the top of his head there. Then, let's see, I did use the bronze here to make his eye a little bit more distinct. And then I think that's it. And let's see, I did use my dark pumpkin pie, and what I did with my dark pumpkin pie was to color in his beak and give him some distinct feet in that mud that I made underneath him. And that will dry, and you will get lots more of the blue than you expect in this. And I'm going to go back in and add just a little bit more. All right, there we go. I wanted it understated, but I didn't want him that pale. So there, I've got my bird done, and I think we're just about ready to put this together. Oh, splatter. I did want to use that splatter again here on this, and I did it in this one in the Crumb Cake, and I think I'm going to use both Crumb Cake and Evening Evergreen. So I'm going to stamp off with the Crumb Cake, and I'm just going to add a little bit of this splatter just to add some texture. And maybe I don't need the Evening Evergreen. Maybe that's just enough. Okay. Yep, I think that'll do it. Okay, so to get this ready to go then, we are going to, and I'm going to use Tombow on the back of my frame. No, I'm not. I'm going to use, let's see, because I want to tuck some of the leaves underneath the frame here, and once the Tombow's dry, you cannot get it up. So I'm going to use my dot runner, which cures really well. It's good and sticky when it's all said and done, but for a little while after you put it down, you can pick it back up again. And so if there's any thought that you might have to pick it back up again, sometimes that dot runner's a real lifesaver. So I'm going to put this in place here on my card, and there's almost no margin at the top and the bottom, and just a little tiny margin from side to side. And there, I've got that set on there pretty much the way I want. All right, now I'm going to take some of my leaves, and with this die set, this whole top section comes off there to create some leaves, and I do want to take a pokey tool and kind of pick up this edge and drop one bunch of those leaves under there. And so I'm going to add some snail to the back of these leaves, and I'm going to tuck them in right up here in this corner so that the stem is underneath the frame, but the leaves themselves come out over the frame a little bit. So you see the stamped leaves, plus you see these other leaves. And I'm just going to take that piece off, add a little bit of snail, and these are in the shimmer vellum, which I am in love with. Gosh, that stuff is gorgeous. And just to add a little bit different color and feel, I did some of these in that pale papaya. Let me see if I can pick that little edge up there and get these leaves set right down in here. There we go. All right. Now then, I've got more leaves, and I'm just going to work at setting these down in a way that feels proportional to me. Feeling really good about the placement of the leaves. It feels like it's adding some real dimension to the front of the card, and I like the bird centered a little bit more. Now we have this piece that's going to go here, and it almost looks too green to me. So I'm going to take another dauber and put a little crumb cake across that sentiment. Yeah, I think I like that a little bit better. So I'm going to tone down the green. I like the sentiments stamped in the green, but I think the brown looks a little bit better on there. There we go. I think, and now that looks kind of balanced to me. So I'm going to go ahead and add my dimensionals to my sentiment. I think right up here. Get that straight. And I like the fact that it spans the leaves and the frame. And that's raised a little bit. Now, I used these precious few rhinestones that I have here. These are on back order, so I'm going to add 3 here. And I did put one nice great big one, and this is the evening evergreen ones. And then I have 2 smaller ones that I'm going to set right in here around the foliage. And I'm going to add one more right down here. And there is our card front. I am really pleased with that. I love the way that came out. Now then, I do have one additional touch, but you know what? I'm going to put this on the front of my card before I get any further. Probably should have done that before I did the dimensionals. And I'm going to do that with my seal. Make sure I'm putting it on the right side. I really love the way this one came out. Very pretty, and I like the improvements here, the change up a little bit. There we go. And you can see the color and how it's now that the bird is dry, you get the color, but it takes a while for it to dry and show the colors that you've put in there. Isn't that just pretty? I'm loving the way that came out. And I don't think well, maybe. Sometimes I can't help myself. See if that's too much. Nope. I think it's just fine. Okay, now onward to the inside of the card and our little knot bow. So I'm going to take this evening evergreen ribbon and just make a simple knot bow and give that a snip. I don't want those tails very long. And right up here in that corner, I think is perfect. And I will secure that with a glue dot. So I'm going to take a glue dot and put it on the back of my knot and place that right up here in the corner. And I think that's going to stay put. So there we go. So now we've got the front of the card pretty well complete. I'm really pleased with the way that came out. Okay, so for the inside, we have this piece that we've done a little bit of stamping on. And then we have this piece that we want to get here. And I want to do this on the front side of this, so I've got to cut it this way from here down this. Let me make sure I know what I'm doing here. Yes. So I'm going to go from this loop down to the 3rd loop over. So I'll need my trimmer to do that. And I'm going to set this up so that I am on the trimmer and I put the cutting notch right at the join of those two little scallops, and down here at the join of the third and fourth scallop. And I'm just going to slice that up, and there we go. There we've got our piece to go on the inside. I just thought it looked a little different, and it added something that made it just a bit more interesting. So there we go. We've got our scallop piece to add there. So we just need some adhesive on the back of it here. And I'm going to go ahead and put that into place along this edge. But I don't want to see any of the crumb cake. There we go. Perfect. All right, so there we've got that. And I thought this would be a perfect place to add a couple of these. I think what I did was I cut this piece here and tucked that underneath. But I think with the stamped ones, I don't need quite so much. So I think I'm just going to put one of these in place right in here. And so let me put some glue on that. And so I'm going to, nope, I don't even want it that big. I'm going to cut this off right here. And put that there, and then maybe just a touch of this so we're looking at the same configuration here. So that little piece and then this little piece right in here. And then I think it'll match the outside really well and add a little bit of extra color in here. There we go. And so now we've got that dimension. We've got our bird. And you know, I think I'm going to color the bird because I think this is so pale on the inside that that's part of what was bothering me from before. So I'm going to go ahead and color my bird just like we did on the front. And on this one, I'm not going to put anything underneath him. But there is the inside of our card, and I like the way that looks. So now I'm going to just add some seal and put that in place on the inside. And I think this one looks a little bit more complete with the bird colored and the stamps and the two colors of the leaves up here. Before it didn't quite look finished to me, but I think that's going to work out just fine. There we go. All right. So that is our project for the day. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, well, I'd love to be your demonstrator, or you could join my team. This month we have a particularly good offer, $155 worth of product for when you purchase your starter kit, that is for $99, and normally that's $125, so it's an extra $30 worth of product this time for joining before the end of the month. And it's right about the middle of the month now in May of 2021, so we've got a couple weeks yet to do that. And if you join, I've had people join this time who really just want the discount. They really don't care to run a business, or don't care to do demonstrations or hold classes or do anything. They just like making cards, and they want to have the discount, and that's perfectly fine. And I've had a couple people join that would love to try and make a go of videos and social media and YouTube and a blog and all of that, and that's fine too. We've got the technical support on our team to help people do either one of those. I'm a big believer in having people who join my team make their own definition of success, and then I support them wholeheartedly on getting to that definition. And so, see, I'm going to put the one we made today here on the top because I like the bird so much better. You'll have to tell me what you think about changing it up like that, but I think his being centered over here is a little bit better, and a little darker is a little bit better, and I think the inside looks more finished. So I'm pretty pleased with that. But back to, if you decide to join, or you're even thinking about it and you want to chat some, my information is always listed below the video. You can give me a call anytime, and we'll talk about what it takes to join and what the expectations are. Let's see, right now this quarter has started, so you don't have to have your first minimum due until like September. So there's lots of time to work and figure out ways to help you if you want some help on making your minimum, or like some of my demonstrators say, I'm my own best customer. and again, they're just after the discount. So in any case, I'd be happy to chat with you about any of it. Let's see, this is May. My prize this month is a $60 shopping spree on me, and you can get yourself in the drawing by placing an order of any size on my store, lbedinger.stampinup.net, and you can get to it through my blog, www.inkandingenuity.com. So that's it for me today. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. It does help me. And I will be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips. Bye.